Our custom R1 is in the final stages of the build. And by the end of this episode, we should have all of this gear back on the bike and a functionally complete Superbike build. So first up, it's off to Motor Garage. Get these tires stripped off these wheels so we can prep these wheels, get them ready for paint. The first thing I'm gonna do is strip them right down. Anything that doesn't need to stay on the wheel is coming off, and then I'm gonna degrease these wheels, pressure wash them, coat them in soap, anything I can do to get these wheels as clean as possible for the first couple of coats of undercoat primer filler. And at the same time, I'm gonna try and straighten up this front end. First thing I'm gonna do is measure top to bottom on either side of the forks and check to see if this lower triple is bent at all. It's not far off, but I've just gotta make sure it's perfect. And then I'm gonna loosen off all the bolts to the triple, start loosening off the actual forks and see if they are bent at all. If they are, I'll have to replace the fork tubes. Fingers crossed I can fix this thing.
Now, I will send this bike away to get properly tested for straighteners, just like we have before with this type of micrometer. But for now, I'm just gonna do a layman's check.
3 more hours. That's how much time I have just spent cleaning these wheels. So all up, 5 to 6 hours of cleaning to get them looking like this. Now I've got them on my little homemade spinner machine. It's not really a machine, but these are nice and easy to work with now. I've got blue tack in the spaces where I don't want to get paint, and I'm good to go. 2 coats of primer, sand after the final coat of primer, wet sand to about 1200 to 2000. 3 coats of top coat, and then probably 3 coats of either gloss or satin clear. Let's get after it. Well, it's probably the worst painting I've ever done in my entire life, but the wheels are primed and they are good to go. So I'm just gonna wait for that to dry, 2000 wet sand it, and yeah, color.
And whilst those wheels are drying, I'm gonna fix up the fairings, some sanding, some filling, and then putting some rib nuts exactly where I need them for some hidden screw holes.
Okay, so it's actually 2 days later, and what I haven't shown you is that I've gone over these wheels twice again with more primer. I've sanded them, wet sanded them about 2 or 3 times down to 2000, and I think I've got a much better surface now to work with. I just wasn't happy with the single coat. And I think if I'm gonna do this bike justice, it's gotta be perfect. So now it's time for Bob to come out. And Bob is our 6 meter by 3 meter blow up spray tent. And this thing, it has to be turned on all the time, otherwise it actually deflates. So unfortunately I picked a day that looks like it's possibly going to rain, so I've got to really get this paint done in a pretty expeditious manner. I think that means fast.
The hard part about these wheels is they are so intricate. I've got holes all through the spokes. So I spent the first 30 minutes with a very fine spray set up on the gun, just trying to fill up those holes with yellow.
So we're not having a massively awesome day. That's taken me about an hour because my gun was broken, so I had to fix my gun. The power went out, so this whole thing collapsed on top of fresh paint. That was not good, so I had to re-prep the wheels, and then I've run out of paint. So I've got 1 coat left to do, and I've run out of paint. They're not, I mean, I could probably clear coat them the way they are, but I want these to be perfect. So beautiful wifey has gone to the shop to get me another coat of paint. Half an hour left before the shop shuts. I'll put in the order, so fingers crossed we get that shortly. This bike is turning to be my nightmare, absolute nightmare. 2025, bring it on. So whilst I'm waiting for paint, I'm just giving these a quick wet sand as well. So just 2000 grit sandpaper, nice and light, not much at all. That's all you need to do. You just gotta take the top, like there'll be like a really fine rough surface if you run your finger around it. I generally find that out here on the lip is always super smooth, but in here, in these arms, just give it a quick once over. And then when our paint arrives, I've just got a wet rag here by the way. When our paint arrives, this should be dry again for the final coat. Nice, heavy final coat. Try to avoid any runs. This is like the most stressful part of every build for me. Okay, so I'm just gonna mix up some clear. I'm gonna do 3 coats of clear, about 8 to 10 minutes between each coat. I'm not gonna film that because it's just me spray painting. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna flick to it now and show you how it looks after those coats. Let's just hope I don't screw it up. So the wheels are done, they're sitting here, they're just drying. I'm actually gonna put them out in the sun to dry as well. Now, a lot of people will say they need to be baked. Yes, you can bake them. Bake them, from what I understand, and Dr. Google, baking speeds up the process. If you put them in the sun after they've hardened for 24 hours, that will also help to heat up the wheels and speed up the process, albeit a lot slower. So in 3 days, we can put tires on those. I've also got to put the spark plugs into this baby. So a new set of plugs is going in there, but next job is actually the fairing. So we've got to start prepping this fairing, and I'm going to show you what I mean, because when you buy these fairings from sort of race fairing providers, they've come out of a mold, and I don't know if you can tell. I'm just going to put this camera down for a sec. Okay, so on this, can you see that? That horizontal line just there, that's one of the mold lines. What we don't want to do is sand all the way through that and sand through the actual white gel coat. We want to keep the gel coat, but I want to smoothen off parts like that so that when I lay my paint, I'm not going to end up with a big dirty line in my paint that's super obvious. So there's a lot to do. There's all up, I think, 7 pieces of fairing. It's going to take me about an hour. I'm going to speed this whole film up, put some jazzy music on for you guys, sit back and enjoy. And right on cue, beautiful Australia, it started to rain. So next thing I'm gonna do, that took me about an hour all up, is I'm just gonna give these a really good clean down. I wanna get rid of any oil, any residue which may have sort of touched these plastics or fiberglass from my hands or from anything else that's been, whilst I've been sitting on the bike, they've probably gotten dirty. Give them a really good wipe down. You can see there's oil all over the side of this one. That's all gotta go. It's gotta come back to the cleanest possible surface you can think of, so that by the time you go to paint, by the time you go to put undercoat on, primer, it has to stick to it. So preparation is everything. Preparation is 9 out of the 10 steps. Yeah. And what most people won't tell you is how long it takes to prep. This is day 3. So we've got wheels done, we've got fairing all prepped, ready to go. I reckon I'm roughly 25 hours into it. Now we're gonna apply the high fill primer and then sand that back, wet sand it. Got a new microphone mount going on, it's pretty cool. Got that off Vintra, pretty cool YouTuber.
So just putting all the hardware back on the wheels and just make sure you torque them all down to spec. And now I've got 2 wheels perfectly ready for tires.
Another job done, and whilst I'm waiting for all of this to dry, I'm actually going to get these wheels in the car and go and get some nice fresh rubber put on them. I might even give this a second sand yet, and a couple more touch-ups with some straight primer, not filler primer. But it's coming together. So there you have it. I look like an absolute mess. It's been all up. I think I've spent 7 days just getting it to this stage. Like, the paint prep alone took me 3 or 4 days. Just the amount of time between each step. I can't undersell it, just how much time you spend on these bikes. We've also put an MRA racing screen on it, so that looks pretty awesome. And everything now fits. The wheels look absolutely to die for. The yellow just looks absolutely sick. I love it. We've got some more yellow coming for the bike. We've got some more performance parts coming for the bike. That's it for this episode. I was going to try and completely finish the bike in this episode, but things have changed because now I need to focus on design. So instead, I'm going to have to extend this series out by 1 more episode, and we're going to do all the final design in that episode. So we're going to do the mock-up of how we think the color scheme is going to look. We're going to do the mock-up of the decal scheme as well. Put the last couple of remaining performance parts on it. And then if we're lucky, even get it up and down the street for a quick test drive. Thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, you know the drill.